The 2026 Lamborghini Temerario is the new replacement for the Lamborghini Huracan that went from 2014 to about 2023. Now, I already know you guys know the headline figures. The V10 is out, the 5.2 is gone, and now they're bringing in the 4-liter hot V setup Bi-Turbo V8 that's built in-house at Lamborghini, and it's going to be, again, the headline figure for this new engine is going to be that it revs up to 10,000 RPM, a 10,000 RPM redline. And that's definitely some trick technology they have going on, because I'm sure not too long ago, I'm sure we all remember, I don't know, a 5.5 liter twin turbo V8 that's also supposed to rev up to around 8,000 RPM. Came out probably like 2-3 weeks ago, and yeah, that's said to have 1,064 horsepower. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. I don't have to mention it, but yeah. So like, what do we think about this new Lamborghini Temerario? Like, how do we feel about the hybrid assist, the 2 motors on the front axle, one between the engine and transmission? How do we feel about the new engine architecture, the new setup? How do we feel about Lamborghini having their own bespoke engine this time, building it in-house instead of using something sourced from Audi/VW? We trust in this? Like, not so much we trust in it, but like, are we going to be skeptical towards it? Like, what's the feeling behind it? The V10 sound is going to be gone, but again, that's been replaced by over 800 horsepower of just internal combustion engine V8. And not only that, it's going to be assisted by another like 120-ish horsepower from the electric motors. And yeah, the interior and everything looks real similar to the Revuelto. I like it. It doesn't look bad. Like, I think the interior looks good. And honestly, they're really trying to get as many people into it as possible. You could tell, because they said you could fit up to like a 6'5" or a 6'7" adult in the Temerario comfortably. Anything above like 6'7", so like anybody in the NBA that's pretty much larger than a small forward is probably going to have a little bit of issue. Or yeah, pretty much bigger small forwards or anybody taller than that is going to have a little bit of issues. But yeah, like, it's an interesting look. I see that it has a lot of cues from the Lamborghini Huracan, so I definitely do like that, especially with the intakes on the side, like the intakes right behind the door, right on the shoulders and everything. And it has 2 intakes on the shoulders, where it's like one that's right behind the quarter glass, kind of looks more like Huracan-esque, while the one that sits directly on the shoulder looks more like a Gallardo type intake. And then you got the side blades, where it's like, that's just vintage Gallardo right there. That just looks aggressive. It looks good. The front end, how are we feeling about the front end? It's definitely a change. It's definitely a change. I like the DRLs that they took off the V12. The V12, was it Asenza, whatever it was called, the V12 race car. Definitely, I like the daytime running lights. I don't know how I feel about the headlights, the actual headlamp unit. I don't know how I actually feel about that. It's kind of, I don't know. I feel like that could have been executed differently, but you can see that there's intakes and like air ducts and everything that's right within the headlamp, around the bulbs and everything. So it's like, all right, they're making it as functional as possible. So that is what it is. The rear looks crazy aggressive with those cutouts. You can see those wide 325 tires. Very wide tires. You can see the center exit exhaust, and it's a real short run right from the turbo. Because if you guys know anything about a hot V, the turbos basically sit right within the valley of the V8, so right between the heads. And basically how it works is, usually you're used to seeing like headers for an engine. If it's a V8, you're used to seeing the headers on the outside of the engine. So what it is with a hot V, it's literally like if you took the heads off an engine and flipped them or inverted them. It's basically like taking the heads off, flipping them around and putting them back down, where it's like now the exhaust are on the inside in the V, while the intake manifolds are on the outside of the V, the exhaust runners run right up into the turbo. They run up right into their respective turbo. Then from the turbo, the exhaust comes out the downpipe, and it looks like it goes from the downpipe straight into cats, and then it looks like a resonator, maybe 1 or 2 resonators, and maybe, I haven't seen a back box, but I'm sure it has some type of muffler system in there, and then it goes straight out the back. So I know straight pipe in that car, or in this case, catless downpipes and a resonator delete on this car is going to be insane. But yeah, let's more so just talk about what do we think is going to be put next to, because in reality, it's an entry-level Lamborghini, and we know some other Italian guys that make cars every once in a while. They're in Maranello. They have something called a 296 GTB. And we all know what a 296 GTB would do to this car's, the Temerario, this car's supposed big brother, the Revuelto. We know what a 296 GTB would do to that car. It won't necessarily beat a Revuelto, but it'll be door-to-door with it. It won't be far off. And it's like, the Revuelto is supposedly, 1,000 horsepower, 0 to 62.5, top speed 217, blah, blah, blah. This is 0 to 62.7, supposedly, top speed 212, just about. Again, 800 horsepower plus around 120. It has an 8-speed DCT. So, and I want to say it's cues from the Turbo S, the Turbo S Porsche, because again, VW products. But I kind of just want to say they took a few cues from the Turbo S Porsche, where the Porsche they also run a 8-speed PDK in their Turbo S, but if you know the GT3 and the GT3 RS, they still run the 7-speed DCT or PDK. And it's the same thing for this car. This car runs a new 8-speed DCT, and I'm sure it's pretty much just a revised version or reconfigured version of what's in the Revuelto. And another cue from the Turbo S that I noticed is that now they run a 10-piston caliper on the front. They have a 4-piston caliper in the back. I don't remember. I don't believe the Huracan ran a 10-piston. I think the Huracan ran a 6. But on this car, it runs like I want to say like a 410, 415 millimeter carbon ceramic rotor in the front with 10-piston calipers. Same thing on the Turbo S. So it's not necessarily the same as the one you see on like a RS7, like a big crazy 10-pot calipers for like a 440 millimeter brake disc. But this one is more like a reduced size. So again, like the Turbo S, where it's still a 10-pot, but it's more like a 415, 410 millimeter size rotor. Crazy large. That's a whole lot of real estate either way. I think the rear rotors on this thing is bigger than most front rotors. The rear rotors on this thing are like 390 millimeters. A BMW M car runs I think a BMW M car that doesn't have carbon ceramics, they run like a 395. And this thing has 390s on the rear wheels. So yeah, it's serious. Serious kit. But again, like, what do we think it's gonna stand? Like, what do we think it's gonna do? Do we think it's actually gonna do the 2.7 0 to 60? Do we think it's actually gonna hold up next to the competition like 296 GTB? How is it gonna look next to the SF90 Ferraris that are still on the road, even though that car has been discontinued, along with the 812 also been discontinued? Like, what do we think it's gonna do? How do we think it's gonna look next to the Revuelto? But I think what's most interesting about it is not only the drift mode is interesting, but another thing that I find just intriguing about it for the most part, something that intrigues me about the drift mode, I want to know if it's just like controlling the angle. If it's just controlling the angle, is it going to be like a kind of like how Audi does with the RS7 and RS6, where it's like it'll let you kick out a little bit, but it won't really let you like go full rear wheel drive? Is it going to be like that, or is it going to be like you could decouple or basically just disengage the electric motors on the front axles? The front axle has electric motors, one per each wheel, and it's like, is it going to disengage that and just basically put the V8 power just straight to the rear wheels? Because if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be the same setup as a Revuelto and a Corvette E-Ray, where it's like the engine only powers the rear wheels and electric motors power the front wheel. It just so happens to do it at the same time to make an all-wheel drive. But yeah, like it's interesting. I want to see what it does. What do we think the price point is going to be? That's the next thing. Like, where do we think this thing is going to stand? Do we think it's going to be $350? My guess is probably $350 to $400,000 before options, of course. That would be my guess. And honestly, that puts it in a weird space because if it's $350 to $400,000 before options, and then you option it up, and this thing gets close to like $450 or something crazy like that. It's like now you're getting into used SF90 territory. And again, if this thing is the little brother to the Revuelto, which can barely beat a 296 GTB and will get smoked by SF90, if this thing gets into SF90 territory, are people going to get, like, which twin turbo V8 hybrid are you going to get? Neither one's going to sound that good. This one revs to 10,000, so it's interesting to see how that will sound as opposed to like a SF90 or a ZR1 or a McLaren. You know, none of those cars can do 10,000 RPM, but let's see, like basically, like, if the price is too high, what are you gonna pick, you know? But yeah, just let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments, man. Just let me know what do you think the competition would be like? Like, how do you think this car is gonna stand next to like 765 LT, the new Corvette ZR1, the outgoing SF90, the car coming in to replace the SF90? Yeah, and I also forgot to mention, this car has a lightweight version, the Temerario. It's gonna have a lightweight version that also comes with carbon fiber wheels to go in front of those new 10-piston carbon ceramic brakes. And I think that's definitely gonna add to that price tag, man. This thing is gonna be serious, and it's gonna really, that price tag is gonna be insane. And I really almost forgot to mention this. It has a lightweight version that has lightweight parts and everything that's coming out. So I'm interested to see, like, when this thing comes out, where it's really gonna stand. And I had to cut this part into the video because I almost had forgot to mention it. But yeah, you guys let me know what you think, and also definitely just what do you think that lightweight version is really gonna bring to the table. But other than that, now you guys can safe up and y'all can stay sturdy, man.